Awesome. All right, so it's 2:02 Eastern. I think that we should get started. So first off, want to welcome everybody to the room. We're very excited for today's session because first of all, you're all here. And the fact that you're here, we just launched this, webinar registration last week. The fact that you're here clearly demonstrates how top of mind the economy is for pet professionals like yourselves. So this conversation is super timely. Today is going to be more of a discussion format rather than a webinar format. So make sure that you have your questions prepared. First, I do want to warm up the room a little bit. Could you guys please type into the chat, where are you tuning in from? Just real quick, where are you located? Where are you based? We want to see who's in the room. So we've got Texas, Michigan, Massachusetts, Central Florida, Michigan again, San Diego, Tampa, Tennessee, Canada, fantastic, Arizona, Maine, Ohio. We've got another Canadian, warm Florida, Syracuse. We've got Jupiter, Florida, Idaho, Boston, California, Minnesota, Jersey City, fantastic. We've got people from all over the place, and that's great. So, we like to see the diversity and the geographics of all those pet professionals that are with us today. Another question that I have for you guys to tell us is, what kind of business do you own, right? Are you a retailer? Are you a groomer? Are you a specific type of pet care specialist? Maybe you walk dogs, maybe you're a trainer, veterinary clinic. Let's see in the chat. Drop it into the chat what kind of business you have. All right, we've got pet portraits, rescue and retailer, in-home small dog boarding and daycare. We've got the dog wash and boutique, dog walker, pet sitter. We've got trainer. Wow, we've got all in one. Fantastic. We've got pet food. Yes, any brands in the house, any e-commerce or digital businesses, right? Fantastic. We've got probiotic air purification. We've got dog treat bakery. Fantastic. There's so much diversity in the type of pet businesses that are here in the room as well. One thing that we all share in common, obviously, is our concerns for what's happening in the economy and in the state of the pet industry. So before we dive into it, I think it will be phenomenal if we first introduce ourselves, because it might be the very first time that we're meeting. And if it's not, please let us know in the chat as well. If you attended the Pet Industry Network Growth Summit, if you are returning from that summit that we had back in February, or maybe you came to the one that we did the very first time in June of last year, please let us know in the chat if you are a returning attendee, if you came to the summit. We'd love to say hello to you in the chat. Anyways, so this is hosted by the Pet Industry Network. And what we as a group collectively do is we bring together experts in every single specialty across the pet industry in marketing and in operations for pet businesses exclusively, right? So it was co-founded actually about exactly 3 years back by myself and Matt Aldrich. So, hey everybody, I'm Yolanta. This is the first time that we're meeting, and I founded Pet Pro Media, my own business, about 5 years ago, and I linked up with Matt Aldrich, my co-founder from Pet Engine Marketing. And together in the industry, we saw this need, this gap for bringing pet businesses like yours a solution that's comprehensive, that offers support and access to expertise. And we've been on a mission ever since, right? So that's why we've hosted the summit. And that's why today we're bringing to you this very webinar, because we realized, you know what, it doesn't make sense to hold off until the next time that we host a big event to have this conversation. The economy is uncertain now, so let's address it now. And we decided to bring in our expert, Lynn Switanowski from Pet Retail Helper, to help us dive into our discussion today. So today we're going to be tackling a topic that's super top of mind for our industry, how to stay resilient in this economic uncertainty between the rising tariffs and the shifting consumer behavior, as well as I'm pretty sure a lot of you are feeling the increased pressure on margins, right? There's a lot of tough, but navigable conditions, and you're not alone. Look around you inside the Zoom room. So we're going to be joined by a powerhouse voice in the pet industry who brings those boots on the ground insight and strategic perspective to the conversation, Lynn. And she's a seasoned retail industry expert. She's helped thousands of pet businesses learn those skills to adapt and survive and thrive in today's crowded retail marketplace. Her and her team, they focus on their efforts on providing pet retailers with solutions to business challenges like these that will help you drive immediate sales and profits. So I'm going to go ahead and bring onto the stage Lynn Switanowski. And if you'd like to add any more words to the intro that I just shared about you, please do so. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me? I should be unmuted. Yeah? You don't hear me? Great. That was a very kind intro. I'm also a member. I'm just a simple member of this awesome network here, the Pet Industry Network. And it's funny. They called last week and I was talking. I'm like, I was just going to call you guys because my own clients are getting nervous and what do we do and how do we do it? And you guys think pets first, you think service, you think products, I think finance first. And then I think, how does that, ultimately, how does that look when you deliver your products or your services to your customer? And to say this is, I hate to use the word unprecedented. It's in the news too much these days, but we probably started with COVID, right? And used it during then, but a lot of crazy times. We help pet businesses prosper in our business Pet Retail Helper. And that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to talk to you guys. We're going to leave lots of time for questions, and we're going to make sure, I don't know that we can solve the tariff problem, but I think there's a strong number of us in the group. So, we'll lobby our way through this call. But the idea is that you're not alone. There's creativity out there. There's solutions out there. And then there'll be further conversation. That's the key. We can promise you. You know what I mean? This is an evolving situation. So our job is to not leave any of you hanging and to sort of be here and help you at each stage. So thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Super excited to have you here, Lynn. As always, it's a pleasure. So yeah, you've got a bunch of fans here in the chat. Guys, today, here's our quick agenda. We're going to break down how some of the recent economic changes, especially some of those tariffs, are directly impacting pet retail, your supply chains, some of your customer spending, behavior as well. So next, we're going to cover some practical ways to manage costs, maybe streamline operations without cutting those corners, followed by more consumer behavior insights that you guys can act on right away. We're also going to talk about technology investments that can pay off during volatile times. And then finally, some community building strategies that can help boost customer loyalty, even when budgets are tight. So we're going to move things quickly, try and keep things focused, and we are going to leave some time at the end for questions. So feel to drop those into the chat as we go. Just a quick tip, if you mark that with the letter Q, we'll note that down for later, and we will get around to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. So before we get started in the discussion, I think it would be great to get a pulse in the room on how we're feeling about the state of things. So if you can please drop into the chat on a scale of 1 to 5. How concerned are you about the current economic landscape? 1 being not really, which makes me wonder, okay, why are you here? Maybe you're curious to hear what we have to say. 5 being extremely, right? Extremely concerned. So let's see on the room. Let's see what we've got. We have a lot of 4s and 4.5s. We've got a terrified 5. Sure. 4, but optimistic, fantastic. 2 for business, 4 for personal. That is a good distinction. Absolutely. So as you can see here, we're averaging around 4, right? We're not like there yet at the point where like we need, the sentiment is like everything is falling apart. And that says a lot of good things to me, because that means that there's hope, right? There's a chance for us to implement profitable strategies in order to bring that 4 down back the scale. Okay, let's go on to the next poll question. If you could type into the chat in just a couple of words, right? As few words as possible. What is your biggest economic concern right now, right? Be specific. What is the one thing that is your biggest economic concern right now? And it could be something that's not necessarily covered in the news. It could be something else that's keeping you up at night, but is related to the economy, right? So go ahead, tell us inside the chat. We've got tariffs, lack of consistent clients, sure. Inflation, also known as petflation in some cases, alternative pet care, growth, consumer spending dip, low sales, right? People getting scared to spend. Tariffs being talked into a recession, absolutely. Customers spending less. Uncertainty of brand responses and consumer responses, absolutely. Decrease in sales, supply chain, that is a good one. People not spending freely. A lot of consumer spending seems to be top of mind here, right? Because it's not, and we are consumers ourselves, so we feel, you know, it in our own pockets, right? So we can relate to pet parents for sure. All right, and then the last poll question that I have for you is, how prepared do you feel to navigate this storm, right? Put in the chat, 1, if you don't feel prepared at all. 2, if you feel slightly prepared. Or 3, if you feel very prepared, right? If you're confident you've got this, great. But tell us in the chat some numbers, which one corresponds to how you're feeling in terms of your preparation. So we've got, on average, a lot of 2s. Okay, that's really great. Because that tells us, first of all, we're not at that brink of, you know, turmoil in our business economically, financially, but there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of room for strategic improvement, right? Changes that we can make in order to make sure that we close out this year profitably, right? And not let the economics that are out of our control completely hamper down our own business efforts, right? So we're going to talk about that. Awesome. I'm going to turn it over to Matt to kick off the discussion with Lynn now.
The discussion is hopefully about turning you guys from feeling a little bit underprepared to better prepared, right? So the first thing we're going to be discussing is really the current economic landscape and changing consumer behavior. So we're pulling a lot of data from the 2025 APPA report, and our goal here is to help you guys understand how some of these larger economic influences and factors are shifting pet parent behavior. So your consumers or your regular customers, and what that means for your businesses. So to start us off, Lynn, based on what you're seeing in the industry from your perspective and the latest APPA data, what do you think some of the biggest economic pressures pet businesses are facing right now? What do you think they are?
I'm not punting that question, but I'm going to say I'm just level setting by reminding you all that change has been a factor of retail for years. I think you all need to start there. And if we would have had a conversation 5 years ago this time, we never would have said there would have been a global pandemic, although we were in it, right? But I'm trying to start by reminding you that you've been through changes before. Let's talk about the fact that we are meeting on a Zoom call. And we are actively doing business on a Zoom call, right? That was not how we got together years ago. So I'm trying to level set by reminding you that we make changes all the time. So the question is, maybe they're coming faster than we want. Maybe, you know what I mean? They're different than we're used to, but we're resilient to pay attention to what's out there. And in terms of the trends that are out there, they're ironically, until sort of this, tariff situation, I think that the consumer changes are actually all really positive. So there are younger pet parents, which means they're going to be pet parents for longer, right? The Gen Z spending money on their pets, not having kids, diverting that spending to their pets, wanting more services for their pets, wanting more high-end premium products for their pets. So if we were having it, we had at the Pet Summit, that's what's the keynote. We were talking about all the great trends going on out there. And I want to remind you of that, because the one thing is, you might be worried. I saw the same 2s, Yolanta and Matt, that you guys did, feeling slightly prepared. I think what we're saying here is this unnerving time. All of you do not know every pet parent in your local trading area. Right? So that's the place to start. When you say I'm worried about economic changes, if we turned it around and said 2025 is good, nothing different going on, but 2025 is going to be the year that we meet new customers every month. That's our goal. And I'm probably spoiling Matt's stuff, but that's the whole key is, part of what we're doing is having to refocus maybe earlier than we wanted to, or dig in more than we were prepared for, but it's a shift in terms of timing as opposed to what we really need to do to meet new customers to drive our business. So the trends are, leading the way to a younger pet parent who's got money to spend, and all of us on this call have services and products we can provide. So the question is, are we meeting those people? And that's the first place. I mean, healthy food, service offerings, healthy pets, daycare, boarding, grooming, those are things that need to happen, that have to happen. 3 months ago, 4 months ago, for those of you that are groomers on this call, we would have talked about, oh, I have a waiting list that's, a mile long, and I feel bad. I can't find enough groomers. And now I see people on this chat saying people are canceling. Well, did we keep our activation for new clients up, or did we stop doing that because we were so full? Okay, now we got to re-engage and get those people going again. So that's some of where I'm feeling. I put a 3 because I know that we're all prepared to do this. I don't think we were prepared to do this now, right? And that's really a better way to say it. You all are here because you care about your businesses. So you're right now reacting, and I am, for my clients, we spend a lot of time in proactive mode. And I think that if we can get anything through this call, it's what can you do proactively from today on out, from here on out, that isn't just reactionary and knee-jerk. It's how does this sustain a long-term approach? And that's how I see it tying into the consumer sort of trends of the day, because I think that was going on anyway.
You bring up a lot of good points. Just to sort of reiterate that, I think that the pandemic several years ago, obviously nobody could have predicted that, but it forced businesses to be better and to provide things and services in ways that they didn't have to before. In our work with retailers, all of a sudden it was like, how quickly can we roll out new services like buy online, pickup in store, or curbside pickup, or contactless pickup, anything like that. And it forced businesses to evolve. And in some ways, we're back in this, back in the fire, right? In terms of requiring us to evolve and adapt in a way that's similar to the pandemic we hoped wouldn't happen so quickly. But definitely the audience is, like, the growing audience is younger. It's not the boomer audience. It's certainly millennial and Gen Z. And some of the data as well does support that while people are spending less on themselves, pet spending is actually not down quite as much. And the ownership trends are, they're looking to add a cat in lieu of adding a child. These dog parents are. So the data does support a lot of that. And really, I think that, like I said, it's just going to force businesses to do business a little bit better and force people to listen to their customers more and understand what's important to those customers and provide those kinds of services or products that they want and be in front of them where they are.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is the key. The session that I was just on, we were talking about data. And, the data piece is really going to be critical for all of you to understand the nuances. Let me back up. The power of information that you have at your hands by what your customers do, and in some cases don't do. I saw some walk. They're not coming for that second walk, right? What they do and they don't do is telling you something. If you own a retail store, the visual clue is they walk out the door without buying anything. That's pretty clear that you didn't meet their needs, right? But for those of you that are service-based, it's a cancellation more often. It's a one less, which then leads to a bunch of people with one less, which means I have availability. So how, can I just give one example, Matt? I don't know if we have time. Okay. So, let's take a service business who used to do, if you knew, to be honest, you guys, my husband is an operations professor. So we're talking about this last night, and he's like, Lynn, they should be doing this already. I said, I know, but we can't beat them when they're down, right? I can't So in this particular case, had you known 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, that your average cancellation rate in the month of March or April or May for grooming is 7% because of holidays, because of whatever, then you would know that going into this April of 2024, forget tariffs, forget anything, forget economy, that you would have needed to book at 107% in order to hit 100%, right? So that's the first clue that says, hey, whether it's some of you on here knew that, great. But now, if you don't, we need to go back, because now you might not be at 107, you might be at, or at 7%, you might be at 20, right? And therefore, I now have to, go in and now try and create strategic plans to ramp up my marketing, to reconnect with customers I haven't met, with finding new people, to Matt's point, maybe spend some to get those people back, because now I'm at 20%, right? So there's so much data that would tell you, yes, my sales are down. Okay, now the word I use is so what, right? Now what do we do with the information? What does my business say? The types of business, where it's coming from, what it used to be, what it's now, and how do I use that to make it better?
So what do you think pet business owners should be doing or thinking about, really, when it comes to dealing with the immediate financial situation, as well as like where we think it could be in 3 to 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. The thing that I know that's real, and we were all, most of us here on this call, maybe we're at Global last month, there was a definite sense of less spending. Still need to feed my pet food, but maybe I'm going from premium and I'm driving it down a notch. Maybe the grooming goes from 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe it's 1 walk instead of 2, right? Maybe it's a shorter trip and I'll drop my dog off early in the morning instead of another night at a boarding and daycare. So a little bit of squeeze, all across the chain is what I think is going on. So the way you, to me, deal with that is to know where you stand. Like right now, it's April 15th. We should be dialed in on what's going to happen for the rest of the month of April. We should be aligning, if we're behind, what are we going to do to try and creatively do that? Now, at the same time, like that's a last minute gasp for April. What does May look like? What parts of your business ramp up in May right now and every year, right? You typically ramp up. What does your marketing look like to support those services? If you're, take your analysis and say my average transaction is down $5, could you do a small, maybe there's an Astro deal on a premium food that with the $5 off or $10 coupon brings it down. Like you got to strategically plan into what parts of your business are trending, where the customer is, and proactively doing it. Not like, oh gosh, it's May 1st. Lynn, Matt, and Yolanta said, do some marketing, right? It's strategically, I have grooms of Labradoodles open for the month of May. Therefore, every image that I'm going to do in marketing for my grooming business is going to have a Labradoodle and is going to talk about why we're so good at at grooming Labradoodles. My washing, talk about spring and what does that look like, right? Some of you are dog washers here. What does it look like in the spring? How do you overcome those problems? Dog walking, same thing. Okay, Mother's Day, keying on the holidays, differently this year, than last. Retail products, that seems to be the easiest one, and I understand that we don't do that all, but you run units, transactions, start there. What are your unit transactions? What were they last year? What are they this year? By category. And then how do you need to adjust inventory accordingly? Okay, I'll stop. I could go on. You can see I'm very passionate about that topic, right, King?
No, that's a lot of good advice, definitely. And I do think we might have one quick question here before we switch into this next section. But do you think there are any buying behaviors that you think are going to stay sort of post-crisis, as we call it, or which ones you think might be temporary?
I think potential buying changes haven't occurred yet because I don't think we've seen the full impact of tariffs down the chain. So I think how the brands react, and we can, I hope, get to the point in this call, talk a little bit about some ways that you as a brand can decide to financially react to them. So the brands have a choice. They can pay the tariff, right, on products coming in from China, and they can choose to just pass the dollars along, not the actual percent. So in other words, if they're, it's 145%, but what are the dollars that they're actually paying on the tariff? And then everything being equal, just change that dollar all the way. So yes, the consumer will pay more, but more like 30% at the end of the day, not 145. So that we don't know yet. I don't have faith that the brands will do the right thing, but here's what I'm going to say. All of you on this call who have products have sold those products to customers because they trust you. So we might have to react and come up with brand alternatives to say, we believe in this product as well. If you're not prepared to spend this much, then, you know, we're very supportive of this brand as well. So I don't know that we know the full answer, but I think if you give a customer a lower price product and it's good and you're signing off on it, we might lose that premium down the road. I think you all have two sets of customers. I think you have customers that will pay premium. We're independent pets businesses. They're a premium mindset anyway. So I don't know how you market to them, but you should be marketing premium right now. You should be talking about value and what you bring and your expertise, and you're not a number on the phone, right? That should have been going on all along, but if not, right now is critical. Those people will pay $30 more for that bag of large food. The moderate customer, the one that's price sensitive and that wants the best for their pet, but this is the reach, you know, that the $30 will tip them over, they might come down. But what does that mean for me? You need more customers, and you don't know everybody in your trading area, right? So I'm not punting. I think we know some of the effect. I think the marketing is the key. If you talk about premium customers, go down that chain. What do you do really well? Why do you do it? Why do they come to you? And then go down the moderate chain. Those are the ones who I think will be most price sensitive, and they could go down, which means you're going to need more customers for top line volume. Doesn't mean you can't find more profit dollars or the same profit dollars, which is a different conversation.
Yeah, so
So-
let's actually build on that a little bit. You know, you mentioned in terms of brands and products mix and whatnot. What are some cautionary tales? Like, what are some practices that people should avoid doing right now in the spirit of panic or concern about what's happening in the economy? How do they stay the course, right? Towards profitability?
So I think you all have a choice of who you want to be to your customers at this time. The one choice is transparent. We are living this together. We are going to be here with you for you and your pets. Like that's a message for all of you, right? The second person is you communicate to them that we're going to do everything we can to hold price, that we will keep you updated. Our goal is to be transparent. We know that you're feeling pain, like, you know what I mean? And so we're worried about your pets too. I think for me, that's how you win hearts and emotional, you know what I mean, commitment to people. Internally, do you work with your brands? Do we maneuver? Do we look at more promotional activity? Do we look at driving higher profit margin areas where we can? Do we know that we push these premium brands for the people we can to keep our overall margin up? On the retail side, we have a markup. On the service side, we also have a markup. I don't know if you all know what that number is on the service side. That's the first thing you need to understand. What is it going to cost you to provide the service today that it did differently? Your supplies go up, fine. But, you know, do you have 5-10 minutes of slack in your groomer schedule that if you tighten that up, you could get another groom in per day, 2 grooms overall, something for your store that would make up the volume if you maintain your prices. So that's where I think you have to look. I also think it's a number. So you have a choice. I alluded to it earlier. Your top line sales, and Matt, you started with, hey, sales, right? And I get you're all here talking about sales. But the sales is the lever on the top. The lever on the bottom is profit dollars. And, there's a lot of different ways that your profit dollars are affected. So if your cost of goods go up, if your cost of services go up, and you don't raise your retail prices, what other elements can you reduce to improve your profit dollars? And at the same time, by not taking your prices up, actually gain market share. Because everybody else, I work, I have another client who is not in the pet business. Shh, don't tell Matt or Yolanta. But they got a letter last week, the day that it happened, even before they were revoked, that said, we are raising all of our prices today. Now, I, on their behalf and for them, and in the same way for you, will be livid if your suppliers do that. Because you know why? They have a warehouse full of merchandise that they are just choosing to pass the entire cost on to you. And you guys have the power of the pen and the power of the mouth by saying that to them. Hey, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? You're a distributor. All these goods are sitting on your shelves. Why are you going to pass it on to me right now? We should be working together to ease this into the system, right? But that's sort of where my mind is going right now, is how do we ease the pricing down? Maybe our overall markup. We all stress about food. I get it. 35, 38, right? Food's going to be a lot affected by China. So are toys, but our markup's a little bit higher there, right? Some treats. So how do we ease our markup to work our way through to gain customer loyalty at the same time? And I do think it's possible, but I also urge you to be, and this is the wrong word, I just can't think of another one. Somebody come up with a better word. I'll say assertive with your suppliers. I was going to use aggressive. I found assertive at the last minute. But for me, you owning your business and pushing back on them, and like in the same comment, what are you talking about? You have a warehouse full of goods. When the goods make their way into the warehouse, that is when I would expect that you would say to me, you're, not now. Now you're just gouging me. And I think in our industry, good news, bad news, we have a lot of potential supplier trade-offs. So we can work with people who might be more customer friendly.
Can you speak to the service side as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the service side, I started there by talking about the price of services. And I really think all of us need to dial in and understand what percentage of the total cost of providing a service is actually in a product. Shampoo, conditioner, right? It's not your largest expense. It's the consumer mindset of you're going to raise prices. And if everybody around the area, says, I'm going to take my prices up, and you hold your prices, you can actually gain market share away. And you can also do things to proactively gain customers. So you could say, you know what I mean? Like first-time customers come in and, we'll do some sort of special. We'll do some free add-on service that you, because you've done your research, know is your most profitable add-on service, meaning it costs you the least to provide, looks like it's a big value. And all of a sudden, your offer on your marketing is first-time customers get, I'm making it up, $30 of add-on services for free. That's saving X percent. That's very aggressive toward reaching new customers to make up for the ones that are coming in one time less. And that could be walking, that could be grooming, that could be dog wash. But it starts with you knowing what the cost of providing that service is and what's your markup. And did I cover all the services, Yolanta? Do we need another example? I can come up with one.
I think that's pretty comprehensive.
All right.
Tends to be. Yeah, so I want to transition into our third topic here, just so that we make sure that we've got some time for questions at the very end, guys. And the questions that we've been getting have been good, so make sure you use the chat to drop them in there, and we will have time at the end. So third thing that we want to make sure we cover today, Lynn, is how we can leverage technology and other ways to kind of streamline our business to either optimize marketing efforts, build customer loyalty, and really just like kind of make some investments in some places that can help drive growth and retention,
Yeah.
instead of just cutting things off.
Yeah. I want to make sure that you guys all hear me say this. Basically, Matt and I have had this conversation a lot of times. When I start working with a client, I want to find enough money for them to go to pet engine marketing, because to me, you need data, services. You need Yolanta services on the sales side to drive. I don't ever want any of you to stop reaching for new customers. That is the kiss of death for your businesses. So anywhere that technology can help you reach new customers is where you need to be today, right? And Matt, I'm going to defer to you on the, kind of the summary, and you guys on the SEO side. On the financial side, if you are a product-based business, the technology is anything that can help you analyze your inventory more effectively. You should be making sure that your inventory is turning 8, times a year. You should be making sure that your stock to sales ratio is in line by category, each department that you have. You should be optimizing how your business runs. So technology, so that is systems. If you're a service-based business and you aren't using, don't yell at me, all of you, because you got great receptionists at your front desk, okay? But if you're a grooming business and you're still taking appointments by the phone, that's not as customer service friendly as it could be. So how do you optimize that? I just worked with one of my clients. He has 3 locations, and we actually set up, and I'm going to use the word call center, but it's basically behind the store of one of the, behind the front desk of one of the stores, so that all calls for all 3 locations are in one, so that the funnel, so that not 3 people or 6 people are dealing with a receptionist desk, right? So how can you streamline operations using technology? Call center, virtual assistants, payroll optimization, how you automate your marketing. Obviously I started with inventory, but for those of you on the service side, there's so many things that you do repetitively every single day. And I'm going to go back to this dreaded word COVID. We had to stop doing things the way we did overnight. And if this is the push for you guys to finally implement that technology that moves your sales organization, that moves your inventory, that moves your SEO, that moves your, forward, make that be one of the things that is a great thing that comes out of this, because you'll have so much more. At least you're doing something to create forward momentum. So that to me is how I see it on the financial piece, in inventory and in financial operations, which can be for product and service-based businesses. But I certainly, and this is where I'll defer to you too, but on the technology for marketing, your business has to be found. Right? So all the stuff I'm talking about assumes that your business will be found enough to drive sales, to optimize retail, to have a payroll. But I feel that this is a time to really optimize what you look like and how people find you.
I think you're kind of going full circle here, when we talk about being proactive and doing things and not just like hoping this blows over and goes back to the way things were. Because I think the reality of it is that, COVID might be not as big a deal these days, but the results in business and the world from COVID are forever. Like, we still see them everywhere and we're still feeling them everywhere. And the same thing is going to happen with pricing and tariffs. Like, the tariffs might go down, but I would be shocked if, when prices have gone up, that these businesses give you a gift and say, oh, the tariffs are no longer in play, we're going to lower our rates. I do not expect that to happen. So what's changing now is permanent, and it's going to force you to change and be better at everything. So, Lynn, I got a couple more questions for you, but I think the main one that I want to touch on is really about like simple automations or systems that you've seen that can really help pet businesses, whether that's in marketing or finance or inventory management or anything like that. Like, how can they really streamline themselves and become better as broader business owners,
I'm going to start with something really, really simple, which will give you a great indicator on where to dig in more, which is, to the level that your POS system delivers you, sales and profit results by category and subcategory. Start there. For all of you, if you are a groomer, you know how much your grooming rates are by groomer, you know what your add-ons are, you know what your cancellation rate is. All of this really critical data that is sales related is there. And there you understand where the first level of potential problem solving could be, right? And where to spend more time and energy. So again, you know, I act for your service business, I act very differently if, you know, if all of you right now had a grooming business, and hear me out, that was 60% revenue generation by just the groom, okay? And 40% of it was add-on services. That's a pipe dream, I understand that. But if you're at 95.5 and you get less grooms, you got a problem. You know what I mean? If you're at 60-40 or 70-30, and you know, and you lose a few grooms, you can work with everybody. Let's say you're at 5% right now on add-ons. If you could get up to, you know, 20% add-ons, you know, that for the current clients you have, that adds revenue. So that's where I would start on the sales data. For the retail piece of it, it's exactly the same thing. Sales data and profit data come hand in hand. You know, so if you have sales data by category and inventory data by category and profit margins by category, and I know you posted the link to the APA, there are industry benchmarks that talk about what your profit margins should be by category. Start there. You know what I mean? If your sales are going down, it doesn't mean that if a customer trades down to a, you know, a moderately priced food versus a premium food, that you will lose that you can't keep their treat business, or that you can't gain their raw business where you make a ton more margin, you know, that you get them in. The dog still needs to eat. The dog theoretically still wants treats. So your job is to hone in on the areas that you can. That sales data will give you profit on those sales. And for me, the immediate reaction is I take that profit information with the sales data, I align my inventory, and I plan my marketing. Like literally, how do you plan your marketing? What does your store look like? Where are these very profitable products in your store? Are they in the back? Okay, let's bring them to the front. You know what I mean? Let's impulse buy, set up a register, set up a $5 bin, which is items you paid $1 for. I can tell you this, for any of you that need products, your add-on for your service-based business, your dog walk, your wash, your groom, go find a 50-cent, $1 cost item that has a $5-7 value and give it away. You know, as a percent, it'll look like you're a hero to your customers. So start with the sales data first and foremost.
Always a good place to start, just looking at the metrics. So I'm gonna move into Q&A. Guys, we do have some great questions in here, and if you do have more, feel free to drop them in the chat as we jump into this. So starting with what Vicky said first. So Vicky, you asked, basically referring to us mentioning that there hasn't been such a decline in the pet industry regarding the amount that people are spending on their pets compared to themselves. But her example is that she has fewer bookings in February, but she made more because she had to raise her rates. So just curious about the relationship between spending increase versus and like people raising prices out of necessity versus the actual number of people that are within her market.
Yeah. I think your timing on raising the rates couldn't have been better. You should go play the lottery because exactly. I'm not sure that others who meant to raise their rates early in the year probably are going to feel as comfortable doing that now. But I think you automatically get a bump, right? Because you raised your rates. But that's assumptively saying that bump remains because the same number of customers come. So if you end up, you know, raising rates by 10% and losing 10% of your customers, yes, you'll still be flat. So to me, you still have the opportunity to reach for new customers. People who don't know you have no idea that your rates just went up. So, you know what I mean? That's where you have to go and get more of those customers. you know, every time I work with a grooming and they, you know, I'm like, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's make sure that we're, again, what is the profit of each of our grooms? You know, I won't make you raise your hand here or do like Yolanta did and write in the chat here, but I'm just asking you on this call, honestly, to report, those of you who are service-based businesses, do you have a profit margin for each of your lines of business? And if you're multi-groomer, do you have it by store? I mean, by groomer. And when I say that, I ask the question, do you have a ranking, or do you have a, you know, a list of how long a groom should take? So your best groomer who does 8 a day, your worst groomer who does 6 a day, that's a profit problem, right? And I'm saying that because let's just pick the same breed of dog, right? So you got to know where you need to improve, and that's knowing your profit margins. So I don't think that the pricing is going to be the ultimate issue. I don't think anyone is expecting prices to go down. It's going to be a function of, do they skip a groom? Like, think about humans. Maybe we push that haircut out a week or 2 or 3 weeks because we don't want to, right? So sorry, gentlemen, don't mean to be biased here. But we have to react like our customers do. Yeah, exactly, John. But we have to react like our customers do. So I don't think that pricing is the only driver. And I think you guys, I get it. It's the lever that you see the most. But pricing doesn't mean reduction of profits. Just because sales go down, you don't have to translate that exact to the bottom line. And I would urge you all to start thinking that way and really starting at the top, but understanding what levers you can pull all the way down.
Yeah, makes a bunch of sense. And just if I can add 2 cents to that, is that if you're, one thing that you can definitely do in your local area is a brief competitive analysis on pricing. And if none of your competitors have raised your prices or their prices and you're way overpriced at that point, then that's something to take note of and maybe react to as well. But a lot of it still depends on what Lynn is saying too, in terms of profit margin per service or profit margin per category, and see how you stand up there rather than looking at competitors too. So we have another question similar to raising prices, but Michelle asked that really about messaging when it comes to raising prices. She said that San Diego's inflation rate they just released is 4%, which is tied with New York City. So probably one of the most expensive cities in the country. Her prices are not 4% higher. So what is the best way to message that? And should she hold off promoting that kind of message in case her suppliers do increase by 4%?
Yeah, I'm interested to know what kind of business she has. Is it a retail business or a service-based business?
Great question. Michelle, would love to have you chime in on the chat if you can. Actually, it's...
I'm here.
Oh, hey. What do you have? What kind of business, Michelle?
Retail.
So you have a retail. So, I mean, the question, why I asked is, it's when you say you're under 4%, I think in our world, there's so much map pricing, you know, that we kind of, except for the novelty areas like bulk treats and areas where we can, you know, maybe Keystone Plus a little bit. So in terms of raising rates, I would start with your two biggest categories. A1, where are you priced on food versus your competition? So do a absolute, you know what I mean? Do AI, just ask AI to find local stores within 20 miles of your store and pick your key brands and find out. And they'll create a chat for you that says, here's what they are. If you're $1 or 2 less, I would take those up now. That because you're not going to affect anybody. You get the ability to give somebody a $5 coupon at the register if they notice. Like, you know what I mean? You make it flexible so that for the squawker or 2 that you can react to it. But then the other thing is, where are you on products that have high margins? You know what I mean? Like, where are you on, I'm being silly, but yak chews? You know what I mean? Where are you on bully sticks? What are you paying for them and what can you retail them at? And could you simply by raising those prices, you know what I mean, and promoting them, or frankly, being the low cost provider in the area, choose to be the low cost provider because you're making enough money that you can grab market share. Hey, way better to get them in for a $7 bully stick and then they buy your food. We'll take that all day, right? So I don't think it's, I don't see it. Doesn't mean it doesn't feel this way to you. I get it. But just because you're finding out that there's inflation, unless you're telling me there's very specific products that you chose to go short margin on, I don't see the same equivalent as changing every price in your store. So maybe there is another nuance to it.
Yeah, so we're a dog rescue, and part of our mission is to keep pets in homes by offering healthy food and treats and like interactive toys and things like that. And so we try to make it available, but we offer premium products. So a lot of them are premium prices because you can't I'm not going to undersell, I'm not going to lose money, but I'm just not going to be one that's going to rush to raise my rates, because if that's the difference between a dog eating healthy or a dog eating grocery store food, then like, you know, I don't need all the proceeds help the rescue. So it's more of a charity type of mindset, but I'm still in it to make money.
So I'm going to throw out something else that you didn't ask, but I would kind of try and go end around, in that I would go to all of the brands that you buy from and ask for either one-time discounts, monthly discounts, number of bag discounts. So to basically go and ask for the discounts under and the rest of you, it's not that you shouldn't do this. She just happens to be a rescue. And so there's a, you know what I mean? But ask for mission-based help. Hey, you know what? We're still trying to maintain it. Can you give me, for every 20 bags I buy, give me 2 bags free? You know what I mean? It'll be a cheap way. And then you can promote them and, you know, make sure that everybody knows. And then for me, I would add that 0 cost and to keep your margin up, and then you don't have to raise prices. I would also ask them.
I actually did that with 2 suppliers this last week. I did that.
And how'd it work?
It worked.
Great. Now go to the next 20, you know what I mean? And ask them to repeat it again. And for the rest of you who heard that, that is something that you should all be thinking about. You know, you have an event, you have something coming up, it's Easter. Ask for marketing money too, $25 to do ads. They want their brand move forward. They're in as much hurt as we all are, because trust me, their prices are going to have to go up if it's coming from China, and therefore people are going to shift. So those of you guys that stay loyal and that make them a partner, the job is they should work with you.
And then really quick, I also started asking for nutrition experts to come out and do free events for my clients, so they can come and get their nutrition questions answered and have coupons or free product. And the brands are jumping at that so far. I have 3 brands that agreed to do it.
Right. And I also think, I don't know if you use Astro, but for the rest of you out here too, there's a lot of industry services that we should be using. We know, you know what I mean? And now that we can schedule these to go out on a regular basis, you know, to me and Matt, maybe you can chime in, you know, what's getting traction these days. I did see some questions about ads in here, you know, meta ads, but you know, what's working effectively? What can I just put you on the spot? I don't mean to turn this around, but like, how can they best stay in front of their customers effectively now, all knowing the headwinds that exist?
Yeah, it's challenging, right? It's continuing to get more competitive. And I would say your best bet is community building. Like, you have to get the people that know you as a person rather than as a business, and start to build loyalty that way. And if you find that things like meta ads or Google ads are incredibly expensive, I would urge you to build your email list and really own that line of messaging. So there's so many different ways that you can generate sales online. It's about identifying which ones work for you. We do have to wrap up here. So Lynn, really want to say thank you for your time. Please let everyone know how people can reach out to you if they've got follow-up questions or thoughts.
I'll throw it in the chat too, but you guys, I just want you, I mean, I'm a member of this team and I'm going to give you my email, but know that anybody at the Pet Industry Network can help with your specific need as well. But you can definitely reach me at Pet Retail Helper. Get it? It's in the title of what we do. That way you don't forget. Lynn at petretailhelper.com. And again, keep following the Pet Industry Network, because I know we're going to continue this series with, you know, the rest of the experts in our group. We've been through this before. I'm in a good way. You guys, you can appreciate this. I call myself the grandma of the group. I've been through so many ups and downs and recessions here that I got a lot of tools in my toolbox. I'm happy to share them. But by the way, Grandma talked about AI today, so you guys are talking about AI too, okay? So I'm glad you were here, and I hope it helped.
And I just want to be respectful of everybody's time since we are at the end of the hour. For those of you who are interested in participating in more sessions like this, we did do a big grand event called the Pet Growth Summit twice already, but we realize you guys may be needing more touch points with experts like Lynn Switanowski. So if you sign up for our waitlist, petindustry.network.com, it's here on the screen, and Matt is going to drop it in the chat. This is going to be a great way for you to stay connected and up to date with all the events that we'll have, especially even networking opportunities. So we would love to see you again. Thank you so much for participating in today's thought-provoking discussion. Thanks again to Lynn for leading
Absolutely.
the session. We really, really, really appreciate your expertise. And with that, we're going to close out the room in just a minute. Feel free to drop any other questions or information in the chat, everybody, if you have, that we can answer next time. We're happy to do that. But otherwise, thank you so much for participating and playing full out today.